Who is the evil scientist on what a lot of things?
You.
Me. That's exactly what an evil scientist would say.
I'm the Homer Simpson on this podcast.
The Homer Simpson and the Evil Scientist podcast.
yes.
All right.
Oh dear, I think we'll just go back to technology EOs. Another kind of like to that.
But not as an email address.
Yes.
On the to-do list, that one.
Yeah. I think what I'm going to do is just put an alias or something like us or Ash and Ian that also has the same effect.
Yeah. It's just that technology EOs also look like technolog yeos as well, didn't it? Which just made it amazing for me.
I refuse to delete that email address, but I will consent to set up a forward of something simpler that points to it.
So maybe people would find it easier if they thought of technolog yeos.
How could anybody possibly think that? I mean, I'm all in favour of empathising with people's states of mind when they try and do these things, but technolog
yeos.
I don't think that's any better, Ash.
Okay.
I think it's actually slightly worse.
But much more enjoyable.
No.
For me.
For you,
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I can't agree with you there.
Right. Well, I guess...
we've done it. We've disagreed.
We've disagreed. As long as it's still going to exist, though, isn't it? So I can still think about it.
I'm still going to promote it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
So just email us on technolog@whatalotofthings.com.
Or if you can't be asked to type all of that because you're lazy, feckless... I'm trying to think of a third thing. You need three things, don't you? Lazy, feckless, ignoramus. Then you can send your email to Ian and Ash at whatalotofthings.com.
A live commitment to an email forwarding address there.
Yes. Oh dear. It can always be edited out. Will be edited out. We should start doing things.
Yes.
And I've lost all track of the fairness algorithm.
Oh, you went first last time. So I'll go first this time.
Okay. In that case, Ash, tell us what is the nature of your thing?
So the very nature of my thing. So an article caught my eye about something called R&D Tax Credits. So research and development tax credits in the UK.
Yeah.
And this is a process that I've seen quite a few people go through the pain of submitting. So you have to qualify for it and fill in a bunch of forms in order to get it. But the reason why this sort of caught my eye is because it had a slightly sort of not dark side, it's probably a bit too strong.
I find your lack of faith disturbing. Sorry.
It's all right. So R&D tax credits, so they give tax rebates for companies based on their research and development spending.
Right.
But it must qualify as innovative, which I guess there's a whole kind of worms to open there about what is innovation, which is quite a big topic.
When I used to do innovation stuff at IBM, the answer was it's whatever the client says it is. But I'm pretty sure that HMRC won't take that view.
No. It's whatever the client already does.
Yes.
That's innovation.
Yes.
So in this article, it spoke to a bunch of startups who believed that what they were doing satisfied the innovation criteria, which I'll come on to in a moment. But it seems to have been a bit of you would put in your claim and it would be scrutinised very little, and then you would get quite a lot of money back for fairly mundane work sometimes.
Yeah.
So like, for example, if you spent a week building a set of APIs over HTTP, which returned JSON, which were deployed on AWS in Node, and people would claim that as innovation, whereas it's not exactly the most innovative. It's probably one of the more standard things that you would do in a technology company.
Yeah, that's true. But one might argue that anything novel that you create with software, with a programming language, can be viewed as, but it's a new thing that didn't exist before.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't get any credit for import React from React. But anything you do once you've done that underneath might be novel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I guess you've got two things, haven't you? You've got the actual activity and then what it's contributing to.
Yeah.
So whether or not it's contributing to an idea, which is novel, because obviously you can have mundane parts of a novel idea.
You can.
Of the mechanics of it to achieve the idea. So one startup is under investigation now, and they basically said it's going to cost us we're going to have to give back £500,000 because their 2021 claim is being investigated, which means their 2022 claim can't be paid yet, and so on. And they're basically saying we're stuffed.
But they're obviously doing pretty well if they've basically been liable for £500,000 in tax.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they must be doing all right in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. But I think what they have been doing is using it as financial planning to say we're definitely going to get this money for R&D tax credits.
Okay, yes.
Rather than saying, wouldn't it be nice? Or let's have a solid business plan which doesn't include this stuff which you may or may not get, but it absolutely does include that stuff. And now HMRC are investigating. They used to investigate 1%, a bit more deeply, and now it's 20%.
Yeah.
So, and then the challenge is that once they start investigating your claims from the past, they can either ask you for the money back and your subsequent claims go on hold. And if you're using that as your money to keep your company going, because you're going to get some money back from your corporation tax bill, you're then, the money that you banked on being there from the tax credits 2 years ago is no longer going to be there. So companies have sort of started to complain that the rules are a bit vague. They argue they have innovated, and HMRC say, no, you haven't. Although one got an award and a grant for innovation and then got their tax credits, R&D tax credits investigated, and HMRC said, you're not innovative enough. So either the thing that they did to get the award wasn't innovative enough, or HMRC are wrong, or something else. It takes too long and it hampers cash flow. So the interesting bit is what qualifies you for R&D tax credits. So you've looked for an advance in the field, but not just for your company. So if you built a SaaS which solves some interesting problem, then that would qualify you. Mm-hmm. So you've had to overcome the scientific or technological uncertainty. So if you've had to build something really hard, an algorithm of some description.
I mean, that's kind of did something that might have failed.
Yeah, yeah.
Significant chance of failing.
Yeah. And then interestingly, the next one is you tried to overcome the scientific or technological uncertainty. So you gave it a go.
But you still, the world still learns from that, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's actually quite good, the government actually recognising that failure can be
absolutely
recognised as innovation in some way.
Yeah. And then the fourth one is could not be easily worked out by a professional in the field.
Import React from React.
I'll get my submission in now.
yes, that's what a lot of things. Unfortunately, we don't pay any tax for what a lot of things because the idea that we might make a profit is
fanciful to say the least.
Fanciful in the extreme. So we could get all the tax credits in the world, but it wouldn't do us any good.
Yeah. So I guess my general sort of perception of this is I'm not sure that you should base your business on receiving a tax rebate for something that it's fairly grey.
Well, uncertain tax things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or at least you have to, in your planning, recognise the uncertainty of it and say, these are these extra things we'll do if this happens.
Yeah, yeah. And then also, I think sometimes some of the things that are claimed for are not tied to innovative ideas or new ideas. It's just, the mundane. If you claim for, I don't know, using OAuth to authenticate your customers or using AWS Amplify to set up a load of data storage, what this always makes me think of, it's like the quantification of innovation and then how much do you give back based on how you've quantified that.
Because this, to me, is just governments interfering in tech. I mean, it's not just tech, is it? It's other fields of endeavour. But it's just like governments are always trying to do things or get technology companies to do things. And normally they have big sticks to try and make them do them, like we're going to regulate you, like AI or app stores or something. You just think the governments try to regulate these things, or they try and do stuff, and it's just, oh, you've made it worse. You know, you're in some way serving one group of people, accidentally screwing over some other group, and you're insisting on things that are impossible or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just feel like this is more of the same kind of thing. And what maybe governments want to make they want to make people more innovative. So, I mean, this is specific to the UK, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe the government wants to help companies be more innovative or reward them for doing that.
Yeah.
But you know, as soon as you have to write down these definitions, which, you know, they're not too bad. I didn't think they were that bad.
No.
But it's just, all these companies are going to start thinking, okay, what do we have to do to game this system?
Yeah.
And actually, you know, maybe there are other things you could do that would achieve better results and be less complicated.
Yeah, because like a whole industry has popped up around it to do these things. There's like specialist R&D tax credits consultancies now, in order to help you to submit the things that you need to do.
So here's a question: is there failed R&D tax credit application insurance you can get?
I don't know, but I think I should start to offer it.
Yeah, I think that'll be a money spinner.
I'll have to find someone to underwrite it.
If the government doesn't give you the money, we will.
Yeah.
Or a third of it, or something.
I always think it's weird that governments want to encourage innovation, but this is like rather than just saying, well, a company's trying something and we'll back them with money, and it might come off and it might not. It's like a very poor middle ground where there's like a big admin process in the middle of it to try and get them to claim it back. And that uncertainty for the companies that are trying to do something different is probably a bit too much to bear, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, especially in domains that are particularly baffling to governments. I mean, I don't know if tech counts as that, but you think you're going to be evaluated by somebody. Whenever I do anything to do with these kinds of things, I'm sort of thinking, how am I going to categorize this transaction for my business?
Yeah.
I always have this kind of imagine this VAT inspector or somebody just saying the thing I've done, but in a really accusing voice.
Coffee and cake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then I generally don't do whatever it is. It puts me off. But oh dear, if any tax inspectors are listening to that, please don't respond.
There's so much coffee and cake on the company.
Yeah. I for the record, very little money of my companies has been spent on cake or coffee. In fact, none has been spent on cake. In fact, I've only ever spent
and grilled cheese with honey sandwich.
Yes. It kind of puts me off, all these kinds of things. I mean, we were talking about, when we talked about the DMA, how they've basically written these laws that mean that but there's no way for the Apple in that example to find out whether a thing will be acceptable. They just have to try and do it, and then the EU investigates them and tries to fine them.
Yeah. So there's that sort of strange, the wrong way around, isn't it? It's like you do something and then you say it's innovative and you try and claim it back, and then the government say,
"Oh no, it's not."
Yeah.
Oh yes, it is.
So,
oh no, it's not.
So the more sensible way would be to do things the other way around, and to have like a better relationship with companies, and when they try something innovative, so find out what that innovation is earlier rather than later.
And that does happen. I mean, there's innovation grants that you can apply for, aren't there?
Yeah, but in the story here, so someone got the innovation grant, and then HMRC said, no, not innovative enough.
Yeah, but was that because they tried to then have tax credits as well? I mean, if Innovate UK give you a big load of money and for doing something innovative, and then you're also trying to get a tax rebate for the same money.
Well, yeah, there is
that
that
seems
as well.
a bit adventurous.
Bit of adventures in accounting.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, there's a person going, for the same work?
You want to get paid twice for the same work? Yeah, that's true. Actually, I didn't think of it that way. So Ian, if you could encourage innovation through some kind of government type scheme, how might you choose? What kind of path would you go down?
So I think I would make it very easy to apply for small sums, first of all. So £5,000, £10,000 innovation project. You write down the project. You take it to somebody who's can easily just talk to the person and then make a decision without having to be, enormously.
Go back to Whitehall, ask for the money.
Yes.
Wait for 12 months. Someone else has done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Mm-hmm. And maybe this exists. I mean, to be honest, maybe it could well exist. I would say explain your innovative project in advance and then get maybe even a non-tax credit. Yeah. The other thing about tax credits is you have to be making money before they're any use. So hearing about a startup getting tax credits is quite unusual because you sort of think, well, how have they made enough money? I mean, if corporation tax is 20% or something, they must have to be liable for £500,000 of it. They must have made
some money, some positive amount of money.
More than £1 million.
Yeah,
quid in kind of revenue or profit. In fact, so that's quite a big startup to be able to get. I mean, it is over multiple years, isn't it? It's probably over a couple of years. So, but nonetheless, that startup's doing all right as startups go. I think a lot of startups though are running on fumes or not much money. And what will be more useful to them is the ability to get grants to support their innovative work. Yeah. So actually, I have a feeling I would offer grants. Bigger grants must be in an area that the country needs in some way. Yeah, sure. Smaller grants, quite easy to get, still with accountability and all the rest of it. You can't just be giving money away and forgetting it. But maybe you could, you find ways to track the projects that you're funding and keep a sort of weather eye on what's going on and asking to see the results or at least the explanation about why there's all sorts of things you can do. But I would make small grants easy to get and larger ones that were more targeted on areas we're interested in growing our capability as a nation. Yeah. And I would forget tax credits because who's got any money to be taxed on? Yeah. If you've got enough money to be taxed on, then I guess by its nature, it feels like you are manipulating the system somewhat in order to give yourself a bit more runway in your company. Yeah. That's the way it feels to me. So two things always like... But runway, but you're making money. You're making a profit. This is the thing that and maybe the grants are... Maybe getting a grant is how you're making it. Maybe that has to go into your books as a taxable income. I obviously not an expert, but it just seems if you're making that amount of money, I just think tax credits is not the best way to do it. Yeah, yeah. I thought if a venture capitalist organisation will often fund multiple things, knowing that you are unlikely to see a return from all of them. Maybe more in the past, they'd just be like, well, here's 10 startups, each with their own ideas about how to do things. We'll fund some of them, and one might persist and become a decent-sized company, and then we can sell it on in 5 years. So it's like that understanding of risk and saying, well, I know that of all these things that I'm funding, I'm taking a risk on all of them, but I think one might come off and it'll be worth it. So it's like, whereas I think government-wise, it's like trying to sort of pass off the risk versus the reward, and make sure that you've got like plausible deniability. So if you give a startup a grant for a few million quid and then it just all goes wrong, then everyone's like, what a waste of money. So you don't do that. So you make them claim it back as part of R&D tax credits.
And then sort of further to that as well, you've got like the DARPA initiative in like the 60s and 70s, where the US government realised that they were like falling behind in terms of technologies to other nations. So they injected a load of money into a load of things, most of which didn't come off. But a lot of them came out with really, really good new technologies, which could be used to enrich the United States economy and culture. So I think it's hard for governments to get involved in these in areas of innovation because they're always doing it from a point of view where they're looking for return on investment rather than taking a risk and knowing that some of them aren't going to come off and accepting that as part of being innovative, because it is. I think you and I know that like failure is part of it, isn't it? 'Cause it's like, well, I've worked in 2 failed startups now. So, but I've learned things from each one, and the next one's going to be an absolute barnstormer. Probably.
You heard it here first, folks. Find out what Ash's next startup is and invest your cash so you can benefit from the barnstorming. The promised barnstorming.
Yeah. So
there's no deadline for that.
No deadline. Open deadline. So
that was an undignified sound.
It was. So apparently a bunch of companies now are just dispensing with the process entirely of R&D tax credits and just saying it's not worth it. Let's just plough our own furrow.
I was a bit uncertain about something I said earlier.
Okay.
So quickly I will just say, if your company is making a profit, you can deduct an extra 130% of your qualifying R&D costs from your profit, as well as the normal 100% deduction, giving a total of 230% deduction and a license to print money. But then it says if your company is making a loss, you can carry forward the loss or surrender the tax relief to HMRC in exchange for a cash credit up to 14.5% of the surrenderable loss.
Okay. So that's the...
So you can get a bit of money.
Yeah.
Not all, you can get some of your money.
Yeah. But
even if you're not making a profit.
That's what startups are probably using as part of their runway for existence.
Surrenderable tax.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I still think it stands, though, that I'm not sure that tax credits is a good way to do it. It's much better for companies to apply to do if they're doing something innovative and, get support directly.
Yep.
But there you go.
So that was my thing, Ian.
That was a truly monumental thing. Momentous in every way.
Momentous, monumental.
Yes. And other very flattering adjectives beginning with M.
Thanks, Ian.
I did enjoy you. I enjoyed that thing. Although I kind of think, why have I not got any R&D tax credits? I've typed import React from React quite a few times in the last 12 months.
It's just you do it for other companies that are going to claim back their tax credits.
Yes, their R&D tax credits. Bloody hell. Goodness me. Well, ain't that a thing?
It was a thing.
So you may have noticed while you've been listening that we somehow moved very quickly onto the first thing. And you might have thought, too quickly, or perhaps unusually quickly. Why is that, Ash?
It's because we got the professionals in. Well, a professional.
Do. Mission Impossible.
So we thought we've been doing this for a while now, and we've somewhat fixed our consistency problem, as in we're yet to have another 2-year gap.
Still a bit lumpy.
Yeah. But it's a little smoother than it was.
It is, yes. I'm quite proud of our consistency.
Yeah. So we have a format and we have consistency and we have good podcasting gear, I think.
I think so.
Ian shows his expertise.
No money, but
no money.
Good podcasting gear.
And we wanted to, well, I think it's important to get feedback.
Yes.
On what you've been doing. I don't think we ever launched into this thinking, let's get like millions upon millions of listeners. Well, maybe Ian did.
Yeah, I was going to say, speak for yourself.
Speak for yourself. But I think we wanted to create something that we were proud of.
Yes.
A nice piece of content, which everyone can listen to and think that's, it's good, it's relevant, it's well produced.
He doesn't want millions of listeners. He wants everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone must listen to it.
So we engaged the services of the excellent Mark Steadman.
A very fine fellow.
So he did a review of the podcast. So he listened to the last 3 episodes.
Yes, you heard it right. We're now paying people to listen to our podcast.
So he listened to the last 3 episodes and looked at the kind of supporting parts of the podcast, as in show notes, social media, and then technical parts as well, like the loudness and the chapter markers and all the good stuff.
And the artwork.
And the artwork.
And the title.
And the title as well.
Ooh.
Which came up with some fairly spicy feedback, didn't it?
Ooh. Yes. Apparently, if you're a new listener, you've overcome the very strong suggestion that this is a children's podcast given by the packaging and the title.
Apparently,
well done.
So thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah, despite that.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a few. The on-ramp onto the podcast was steep.
yes, the more of a cliff face than a ramp.
So based on Mark's excellent feedback, we're going to try a few things, both in the packaging of the podcast and in the recording itself.
And we didn't just get feedback from Mark, did we? We asked some of our listeners as well.
Yes. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. We went out to some listeners and asked for their opinion in a very hastily put together survey.
Yes, very scientific. In fact, what we could do is put the link to the survey in the show notes.
Okay.
And then if any of our listeners who've not filled it in want to and give us feedback, then they can, and we get some more results, which would be fantastic.
Yeah. So over the next few episodes, we'll be trying a few things, seeing how they work.
Yes.
And then there was some slightly simpler feedback, like episode numbers and things like that, which we've trimmed down and
we've removed from the title of each episode, because you imagine people on some podcast players might know that it's episode with a number beginning with 2 before it gets truncated.
Yeah.
Much better if they can see at least the name of one of the things.
Yeah. Yeah. So
one of the changes was about structure. We're trying to make the beginning of the podcast more clear about what you're getting. And so rather than opening up with an enormous ramble, we thought we'd move the ramble to here, as you can probably tell, and try and get to the point of one of the things a bit quicker at the beginning.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think about that.
Yeah, please do.
Some other feedback is that our email address is too complicated.
What? Technology yours? I don't know what's complicated about that, Ian.
It's technology eons, Ash, not whatever you just said. So we're probably going to put in some sort of alias.
Definitely technology.
That redirects to technology eons at whatalotofthings.com. So that those people who are not sure how to spell technology eons, which might be more people than we think, will have something that they can type instead.
Yeah.
Although we are keeping technology eons, I'm sorry, but we are. It's just so great.
Too good to pass up.
Yes. So the structure of how we do it will change a little bit. We're still having 2 things and interludes and usual silliness, but we'll be doing things a bit differently.
Yeah.
But not wildly differently. You'll still know it's us.
You'll still get the whiff of silliness.
Yes, you will. We're going to encode our voices so that you can't tell who it is.
That's Ian. It's my voice because I can't do any of that. Because Ian, as we've discussed in the past, has been lovingly labelled as a tin pot despot for his hogging of all the podcast technology, which, to be fair, he bought.
The buttons are all mine.
So yeah.
Yes, indeed. So is there anything else about that we should say, aside from to thank Mark Steadman, who has been absolutely super duper? Yeah. And if you have your own podcast, we very strongly recommend his health check service.
Yeah, absolutely. I did not feel like I was shortchanged for the money that we paid for it. I think we got an extremely thorough service.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
No, very, very good.
And he knows the podcast business very well.
And he now knows that our artwork contains a clanger, not an aardvark.
Not an aardvark wearing a bra.
An upside down bra.
Makes sense to me, right?
Well, it makes perfect sense to me. I don't understand how anyone could look at that and think it's an aardvark in an upside down bra when it's obviously a clanger. So is this where we say, are we ready for thing?
That's slightly incoherent. Yes, I think this is where we say, so Ian, tell us of your thing.
My thing. Well, Ash is just starting the timer to make sure we don't go on for 3/4 of an hour about it. So my thing is, well, the sort of main title of it is the Ilkley Live website, and it's about that is the website for Ilkley Live, which
thank you for that.
hence the name.
This is why you're listening, everyone.
Yeah. I actually could build an AI that could translate things like the Ilkley Live website into that's the website for Ilkley Live. So I started it maybe 3. Yeah, so we're on the 4th Ilkley Live, and it was available first for the second one.
Yeah.
So it's just had its 3rd outing for the festival, and as the years have gone by, I've developed it. At the beginning, it was quite basic, but it still uses Notion as its back-end database, which is a questionable choice that I might change. So what about the Ilkley Live website? So the thing is that I don't really understand how it works. So I know I've got a very acute understanding of what it has to do.
Right.
And I pretty much thoroughly understand its data model in Notion. But it started off at a time when I knew a lot less about how to do a website in JavaScript than I know now. It's gone through several CSS frameworks in its lifetime. Happily now on Tailwind, which I'm trying to reuse as much as I can, because I've finally got to the point where I can do reasonably decent CSS with it. And there's a lot of technical debt lurking in there. And of course, it's not a thing where I spend, I get paid for or anything like that. Yeah. It's something I have to fit in. And every year brings a new raft of improvements that are needed. I've been thinking about how to get a grip on it and make it easier. First of all, for me, I've also involved Tom, my younger son, and so he's done a bit of work on it. But broadly, it's just me. Yeah. I'm always heavily involved in the things that he does as well. So I haven't got the friction of there being other people involved who I have to keep updated with things and who might change things that I'm not expecting, except in the data, which is always fun. We've had a few interesting dramas of people updating the Notion database. I'm looking at you, Dan Hammond, updating the Notion database in ways that the code was not able to understand. Yeah. But
surely no user would do that.
No, absolutely not. The fact is that it would be extremely unfair of me to sort of blame anybody for any such problems, because it's a Notion database and people can edit it directly, or actually very few people, but the people that can just change anything in it. Yeah. There are no constraints in it to stop them from breaking it. It's not designed for that. Yeah. And the fact I'm using it for this it's not really designed for it. But it
does fulfill a purpose in that regard then, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gives...
So it's easy for the user to change the data on the site, but that comes at a cost of... The code can't handle thorough range of things that a user might do to the data.
Well, exactly. And there's no desire on my part to make the code that complex so that it does do that. I think, I suppose I'm just sort of looking at it now and thinking, okay, so the big area of data is the performances. So if you want to play at Ilkley Live, there's no kind of barriers or curation. You just go to a sign up form during the sign up window. You say, I'm going to be playing this type of music at this 3 words place, which is my back garden or front garden.
Yeah.
And I invite you to effectively to come and listen. And you've got lots of different artists all, using that form. But what's happened over the time is that venues have become a thing as well. So some of the local pubs and things have created what we're now calling, and some people as well in their gardens have created stages where multiple artists go and play all day. So the ticket office, for example, in Ilkley, I'm not going to give them a particular...
Yeah, but they're just an example of...
They're an example. The ticket office in Ilkley, they hosted stages that were basically every hour all day for both of the days of the festival.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic, and it was really great. But there's a kind of friction point between artists, who is the only people that can sign up, and venues do not exist. There's no venue management in the whole app. So and we really need that for next year. There's other enhancements. That's a big one. So I think what I'm thinking about doing is bringing the database into a proper database. So putting it in a Vercel. It's hosted on Vercel. So I put it in Vercel relational store, which is basically Postgres. So I've got all these enhancements. I've got probably until next June or so, May, April, March to do all this. And I don't think I'm on a very strong base. So it's JavaScript, not TypeScript, which means that there's probably all sorts of subtle errors in it that I don't that are managed by having a stronger typing. It's using Notion as a data store. I do need to migrate it off that, but then I will need to build management tools for people to edit the data in the database. All of this, and I sort of think, well, it's not a strong basis. So, and I've done some big changes to it before. So I could start, for example, before I do all this, I'm going to move it all into TypeScript. Yeah. And I'll just go through and change them all to TSX and TS files, and then looking at the 400 errors and then and then fixing them. Yeah. But it's a non-trivial task. And so I guess, and it's more than a headful for one person now. And there's just me. So I suppose I just thought it'd be really interesting as part of this thing to talk about. Maybe we together can think of how to do it. And then if someone else is in a similar position,
then they might be able to...
Might be useful for them.
Yeah. So are there any tests, Ian, of any level, of any type?
So I do not know. I don't know how to do that.
Right.
So I could get AI to help me do it. So I could say, Claude, please write unit tests for this code. But I'm not sure I'd be any the better off.
No.
Because,
I suppose it depends, because it depends who you're sharing it with.
Nobody at the moment.
Yeah. But I guess if you're saying migrate it to TypeScript or get a new database technology involved, then without tests, like you say, you're not protecting the previous behavior.
Well, I'm testing it myself. But yeah, you're right. And it's not, the problem is not that I won't know what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
The problem is that there are side effects of things where I won't remember that over here uses that.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. And, I'd quite like to learn how to effectively do that as well.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe porting it to TypeScript will probably help a lot. And actually, I think I won't suffer too much from no tests when I do that, because it's unlikely I'll change anything. I'll just make sure that the types work all the way through and fix anything that
you can see.
That it seems like I should just nod along and say yes, that I can see, but then I seem to be also consenting to ignoring all the things I can't see.
Yeah,
it's a trap.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
Because if you added some component tests because it's So it's built with componentized UI, right?
Yeah, it's basically Next.js and React.
Yeah. So because the components would be like independent of the database. Yeah, because all the data in the tests would be mocked. Yeah. So that would cover your migration to TypeScript if you had tests for the components. And then that separates that out from the database side of it.
So, okay, so I'm just trying to apply that to what I remember I've got there.
Yeah.
So I've basically got all the data is got by React server components, the pages in Next.js.
Okay.
So the data is fetched by the page and then passed down into a client component that does stuff, shows it or does stuff with it. So when you say component tests, are you talking about component with a capital C in React or component with a small c as in a modular piece of the...
No, the component with a capital C as in the thing in React.
Okay, so are we saying here that if it was you that ruled the world in the in terms of this anyway, your first thing would be to put tests in before anything else?
Yeah.
And that's not... If I asked someone that was a painter, would they say you should paint a picture before you do anything else? In other words, I'm asking someone who's an expert on testing and their advice is do testing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, because essentially you've got a code base which you think you know what it does, although you've already admitted that the implementation wise you don't really understand it. You just know the behaviors. So it seems like some tests would be excellent to shed some light on what's going on. And then also, if by adding those component tests, it'd probably help you explore the data model as well in terms of migration and get some real examples out of your Notion database and use those in those tests.
So the component tests are UI in some way. A component is a bit of UI.
Yeah.
And so you would have a test that said what? So, for example, that sign-up form, what tests would...
Well,
you've got to understand...
How do you test a form? So, obviously you have a successful and then all of the form validations and then any error cases, which are easy to do in terms of a component test.
So in my form, I have, I can't remember whether it's Zod or Yup.
Yeah.
I've got validation schemas that go across the client and the server. I suppose the problem I've got is that I don't really know anything noticeable about testing.
Yeah.
So I'm probably doing myself down a bit too much here.
Yeah.
But there's a understanding, I guess, at a high level about something, and then there's how do you actually do it? Yeah. And those seem to be two quite different things.
I fully expect you to resist testing because you've already thought of the technical things that you want to do with it.
Well, no,
that's well, if you're asking me for my testing experience, that's exactly what happened.
Okay.
You have a project and you've already thought of all the technical things you want to do. It has no tests, but you will launch into, I'm going to change the database to this and I'm going to migrate it to that. And that's exactly what happens, repeated ad infinitum throughout my testing career. and then when the thing doesn't do what it did before, because either you didn't understand it or you didn't have any tests, everyone's like, oh no, it doesn't do what it did before.
Yeah, but you got to remember that because this is only me, really.
Yeah, I thought Tom worked on it.
Well, he did, but I worked with him when he was doing the things he did, so I know exactly. I've basically looked at every thing that's ever been done to it in detail, which means that I guess my risk profile is slightly different from a team of people, some of whom have varying levels of knowledge, or maybe somebody knows that bit well and somebody else knows that bit well, or there's a need for communication. There's a lot less need for communication because it's just me.
Yeah.
If I understood how to do that I probably would go through and put tests into it.
Yeah.
I just find it hard to understand what I have to do.
Yeah, but you went through and did that with the actual site.
Did what?
As in, you said, I've built this site, I didn't really know what I was doing, and it grew over time.
Yeah.
So you can do that with the site, but with the actual project, but not with the tests. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying I can do it with the tests, but what I need to do is, it's again the high level understanding and the knowing what actually to do.
Yeah.
So I might say, oh yes, okay, so I'm going to build component tests, but it's not even clear to me, and you're going to just kill me when I say this, but it's not even clear to me where to go to figure out to what YouTube channel to watch to figure out. Okay,
yeah, you're right. That does kill me. Just any form of resistance to adding any tests is just. Ian, you're summarising an entire career here for me.
I'm so happy to provide you with this example that you can give a good barracking to. In our review, we it was suggested to us that maybe we should be more. What was the word? we should disagree.
Should produce a polemic. This is my polemic.
Yeah. Yes.
I have an untested code base and I want to make lots of changes to it, which I've already decided what those changes are going to be. And I don't understand the implementation, but I understand the behaviours. Therefore, I'm not going to write any tests.
All right.
I'm like, right, okay.
I'll write.
If this was a contract, Ian, I would be like, this is going to be a long 6 months.
But all right, okay. I will first, before I do anything else, I will attempt to create component tests.
Yeah.
But I predict I won't be able to do it, or I won't understand what to do.
Whatever it was that I was going to do anyway.
So what YouTube person should I be watching to tell me how to do this? I know you're just going to say I should join the Ministry of Testing, but I probably...
Yeah, but I don't know. For a project like that, then maybe, because tools like Playwright and Cypress, they have component and end-to-end test capabilities as well. So especially for a hobby sort of project, it's quite nice because you don't have to faff around with loads of different tools.
So which one should I use?
Depends what you want to do, but
well, I don't want to do anything. I'm just going
you don't want to do anything.
I'm going to do it because I
suggest you do the database migration, break everything. And
no. I didn't say that. Oh dear. I said, I'm going to do this. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it because I know it needs to be done, which is why I'm here. Effectively, if I want to keep this going without it taking up my entire life, I've got to get it onto a footing where it's more maintainable. And I think I'm with you that more tests would really help with that.
Yeah.
So what I've got to do is discover how to go about doing that and
sure. Yeah, I'm not saying you should know how to do that immediately. Yeah, just like any testing enhancements, tooling, whatever it is, you look at some tools, you do a spike, you decide how it fits with your code base.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do.
There. I mean, I accept it's not glamorous work, Ian.
It hasn't been glamorous work this for some time, to be honest. It's just hope and spit and sellotape and brown paper, I'm proud of it. It's the thing I've built that probably gets used most. Yeah. Because, thousands of people every year use it. I'm not saying I think it's a pile of poop because it does work. Thousands of people use it. But I do need to make it more maintainable. I need to get it so that I can bring Tom in to do more of it. Yeah. Without, he did a fantastic thing where he accidentally removed a checkbox from a form that needed to be checked before the form could be submitted. And we were all like scratching our heads. Why isn't the form, why won't the button switch on?
So, a test to cover that scenario might be a nice thing to have.
It might, yes.
Yeah. So just to qualify this, I'm not saying that you should go and write tests for the entire application, because it's neither a good idea or particularly sustainable, because you'll just spend forever doing that.
Yeah, I won't be tempted to do that.
Yeah. No, but some people are. Some people are like, well, we're going to spend the next 3 months writing unit, component, whatever tests. And it's no. Just get the tooling in there that you want, and then once you've got that, then you can happily, when you make a change, add some tests. And then over time, because like you say, there's going to be more changes, you're going to then have a suite of tests that will run every time where you can have a Git hook locally to run them when you commit.
Well, that'll be exciting.
Yeah, and then you can have whatever it can run them in your pipeline.
Well, it's on Vercel, so as long as I put something in my package JSON to run it, it will run it.
Yeah, so, and then you've got a few more safety nets there.
Okay, so I said which tool should I use, and you gave me the look as if to say it depends, which of course is the true answer to any such question.
Yeah.
So what does it depend on? How do I do tool selection?
Have you got any money?
For this? Okay, so I have some money I might choose to spend on this, but I'm not sure. I mean, if you said, will I spend £500 a year, I would say no.
Yeah.
If you said, would I spend a £5 a month, probably.
Yeah.
And then something in between.
So what languages does it need to support?
JavaScript and later TypeScript.
Okay. And questions like that, kind of continuous questions like that. We might come up with, say, 5 things that it absolutely needs to do. I would sit down and say, right, what 5 things does it need to do?
That's a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
That's all right. So language it supports. What works well with Vercel as well is probably a good one. So we could come up with a few things which are requirements because it needs to work with the languages and the platform that you need. And then how much money you've got, what sort of team is on it as well.
There is a vacancy, by the way, for head of testing for Ilkley Live.
It's another one of those.
If you know anyone.
Another one of those unpaid vacancies.
Yes.
Which the world is full of.
Yeah, there does seem to be a lot of them, doesn't there? It's astonishing. But, there'll be good exposure.
So, and then also it has a requirement of good exposure. I'll pay my mortgage with that.
Yes.
But you said that Tom needs to be able to pick it up as well.
Yeah.
So that's another requirement for it.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. It's almost like having a product with the requirements, and you come up with the requirements, and then you look at the tools, and then you say, well, which one fits my needs the best?
I don't know. I'll probably go on YouTube and find which one has some good YouTube videos about it.
Well, to be fair, community support and information around the tools is really important as well.
It
right?
is, yeah.
So it's like if you pick something that's open source, not suggesting that you'd go and spend tens of thousands of pounds on a Quick Test Pro license, or if that still exists.
HP Quality Center.
So Ian, as a tester, I recommend that you spend tens of thousands of pounds on HP Quality Center.
And would I use the automation, or should I just write one test?
Just write tests called verify that the thing does a thing, and then that's it. With no edge cases and no exploratory testing whatsoever.
I'm absorbing your wisdom through every pore or something. Good God. So
I feel like I've slightly hijacked this and made it about testing, but it wasn't all about testing.
It wasn't, but your timer that you kindly set at the beginning ran out
about 10 minutes ago.
Some while back.
But I was enjoying myself. So.
Well, I wouldn't like to get in the way of your fun, Ash, by just going on about other aspects of it.
Do you feel suitably chastised, Ian?
I feel like I've been beaten to within an inch of my life. Actually, I'd probably be laughing.
Get on that machine.
Laughing if that was actually the case. But
npm install playwright save dev. Get on that machine. Get going.
Well, I'm glad you've made the recommendation of playwright because now I can go forward with that.
Yeah.
And then when I'm crying, rocking in the corner of my office, as I try to conceptually have any idea about what the hell's going on with it, I can blame you.
Well, think of it as a gift to Tom on beginning his path as a developer. You're actually going to teach him about writing tests rather than just doing database migrations and TypeScript migrations.
I don't know. I think TypeScript migration is quite like doing tests. It finds a lot of bugs. It's going to find a lot of bugs.
I guess it might be worth TypeScript migration, add some tests, and then get into the meatier, the bigger change. I would be, if I was thinking about doing this, I think that would probably be okay. From a pragmatic point of view.
Yeah, it's like add a lot of tests and then TypeScript migrate all the tests.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like there is like some. We need to be pragmatic with
There's
these
some
things.
rationale in favour of doing it that way around. And that way I've got a project I know how to start on.
Yeah.
And then I'll do bun install playwright.
Bun.
I'll create a new branch. One thing about doing it on my own is that long-running branches are less of a problem. I don't particularly need to do trunk development when it's just me.
No. The Atelier website is the same. It's just me. So,
does it have tests?
Yes, of course it does.
I mean, if you told me it didn't, I'd make you go and stand in the corner and think about what you hadn't done.
Of course it does.
Maybe I can look at that and see what your tests are like and copy them, copy and paste them.
That won't work. It will fulfill the requirement of having some tests just for a different application.
Yeah. Well, eventually, if I did that, presumably my website would slowly turn into the Testing Atelier's website.
Yeah, true.
Can only get it to pass these tests by it no longer being about a music festival. All right. Well, that'll teach me to show up with a thing that's so close to myself.
Yeah.
Oh dear! It's a good thing I don't take it personally. I don't think. Maybe only a bit.
Only a bit. Well, that means that the chastising was gentle enough not to cause permanent offence, but harsh enough to get you to actually add some tests.
Is that the delicate balance of the testing consultant?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Oh, dear. Well, that was my thing.
I enjoyed that, Ian, a lot. Thank you.
I can tell, Ash. I truly sensed your enormous enjoyment of that thing. And I appreciate that you gave me a beating that you normally charge.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
A large amount of money for. Oh God, there's got to be some market for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there is. There literally is.
Feel I've got to come down from that. Oh dear, I don't know what to talk about now.
We need to close it out, don't we?
How do we normally do that? Do we say stuff about our email address?
Oh, we did loads of that the other day when we recorded the first part of this.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we did cold open, my thing. Thank you to Mark.
Lengthy interlude,
and then we've done your thing. So there's probably enough to be going on with there, isn't there?
Oh, I'm sure there's always something you can go on about. I mean, we haven't made the what a lot of thing joke for a really long time.
Yeah, we could return to that for the next 20 minutes.
We've lost all interest in Twitter, but or X, as I suppose we ought to call it.
No.
No,
we should just call it Twitter.
Yeah, it's a small spark of rebellion against the billionaire oligarchical something or other. Come and see the violence inherent in the system. Help! I'm being repressed. All right. Well, I'm now punch drunk, so I can't figure out anything else to say. So I'm just going to say thank you very much for listening to us.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone.
Oh, you said everyone. We've been told not to say that now.
Why?
Because people listen to podcasts as individuals.
All right.
On their own.
Okay. Well, should we do it again then?
I think we should keep all this. People could be instructed about how you're meant to talk to your listeners by pretending in a sort of conspiracy with them that they're the only one.
Right, okay.
And it's not wildly untrue.
Well, yeah, that's true, actually.
So thank you for listening to us.
And thank you again.
We love you. in an abstract kind of sense.
It should be I love you because it's the only listener. You're supposed to talk to them as
No, I was speaking on behalf of you and me, but not me and
not you and the listener.
not me and arbitrary numbers of listeners. And I thought we wouldn't have anything to talk about for the outro, but it turns out
Here we go.
It turns out,
And here we are.
yes, here we are. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.